Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the third video of Axiux, and I'm Shivam Roy. So today we are going to learn about some more commands of Windows and Linux. Now I have this running here, this Ubuntu distribution. The next thing you can do is you can take a Windows shell or you can use Pentis box, of which is going to do it right for you. So you can just press Windows and R key and then type CMD to get a CMD exe, or you can use Pentis box to get them all. So now I'm gonna again start two different consoles, one for Windows system and one for Linux. So here I'm gonna connect to this virtual machine. So here we are connected to the Linux and the Windows system. Now today we are going to talk about other commands which are useful, like a command called echo. Now echo in Linux echoes pretty much anything you type here. So this command is going to echo out what exactly I have typed. Now in Windows, the echo command does pretty much the same thing, as you can see. So now what we can do with this is we can write to a file, or we can not write to a file with the help of echo. For instance, if I go to the temporary directory and I make a file, right? So now see, I can see there is already a file called file.txt. Now if I want to write something to this file, I can echo hi, and this is a redirection operator. I am gonna redirect the output of this command into the file.txt. So now cannot overwrite existing file. Okay, so now there's a very important thing that we need to understand here. Here it told me I cannot overwrite an existing file. Why? Because when I try to write into this particular file, right, there is a file called file.txt. When I'm doing echo hi and giving only a single redirection operator, it is trying to remove this file and make a new file with only hi as a text. But when I do a double, when I type in a double redirection operator, it means that whatever after this file has been done, whatever content, let it be, and after that put an hi. So now if I cat file.txt, I'm gonna see hi, and if I'm gonna do the same thing again, then I'm gonna see cat file.txt hi and hi. Now for instance, I wanna do the same thing in file1.txt. Mind you, now there is only one redirection operator and this is file.txt. So I'm gonna put this any command and cat file1.txt. So here you go. Now for instance, I want to put another line inside, and as you can see, this is what happens. Now if I do the same thing, like if I do this, and if I do it in file1.txt, it's also going to tell me the same thing, that I cannot overwrite an existing file because a file exists with that name. So as you can see, once, and yeah, this command is rm, and -r is recursive, and file, and after that this star tells the computer to remove everything, to recurse through this folder and remove everything that has file at the start point. So this and these two files are going to be deleted. So now if I ls, you'll see there are no files here. Now this entire thing can also be recreated in Windows. In Windows, I can go and echo hi file.txt, and I you do not use the cat command in Windows. In cat, you alternative to cat, you have type command. So you type file.txt and you want to see the content. Now if I do this again, and if I type, you see there's a double hi. But right here, doing this here, again, echo high.txt, the result will be a file.txt with only one high because we have removed the other two highs. So as you can see, these are the results we have expected. So once that is done, the another important thing to know is editors. Linux gives you the support of a lot of command line editors. Like you can vi, you can use vi and tx and file.txt or any extension format for that matter. So once that's done, you're gonna enter into, gonna press I and you're gonna enter into insert mode where you can insert, and then you press escape colon wq, and that file is written by saying wq. Now for instance, I did not want to save it, I did not want to save this file, I would have done colon exclamation q. Now these are those shortcuts, these are those hotkeys which are already coded into vi, and you can always go to man vi, or man that stands for manual, and find out all these different commands that you can give in vi, like for instance the colon help command. So there is a lot of things when it comes to text editors in Linux, and also you can change the way vi behaves by editing a file called vi.rc or something. Now that file will be in your etc, but in Windows you will not have that option to edit something directly from the command line. So in Windows I recommend using Notepad plus plus. So Notepad plus plus is gonna be useful to help you do a lot of things in Windows which Linux does in with the help of all its command line editors. Now Notepad plus plus can also be used from the command line like this, and to do that you will need to add this notepad plus plus exe into your path. Now to find out where where a particular command or particular executable that you're executing is, you can type which notepad plus plus, and it told you that in C program file notepad I have the notepad plus plus executable. Now this is the same thing that can be done with the help of Linux. So here I'll type where is vi, and it told me that these are the places where vi is there, and all these are given in the path of Linux. Now to see the path and the environment variables, you can just type env and you can see all those environment variables right here. And like I showed you, to see the path you can also do grep path, and there you go, the path of the Linux system. Now the same thing can be done here with the help of the same environment variables can be done here with the help of a graphical interface, and we can always go to uh, properties here and change the environmental variables. But if you want a particular environment variable to be shown to you just the way you showed, you have seen in the Windows, like these are all the system variables, but if you want a particular variable to be shown to you, you would do something like this: echo percentage temp percentage. This will tell you the temporary directory, which is the temp is also a variable. Now I can do the same path, and here is the entire path of my Linux, of my Windows system. So these are important command line tricks and important command line concepts that you should know about before delving further into hacking. Now there's also another very important thing I would like to tell you about, that is GitHub. Now GitHub is an online repository for code. Now in Linux systems there is already a executable called Git, right? So this Git executable helps you. This minus a this H switch is always is help for most of the commands. Now Git actually helps you. This exe, actually not the exe, the binary actually helps you to download things from GitHub, Right? For instance, you want to go and download a particular project, you can type git clone and then the project's name to download it from directly from GitHub. Now, the another important thing is in Windows, you do not come with any Git executable. So it is hard to download code directly from GitHub. To do that, you'll have to install Git for Windows. Now this will automatically install Git in your path. So you can simply do Git on here just the way you do in Linux, and the Git exe is gonna come here, and you can give all these commands like commit, clone, and actually manage your entire repository from command line. Now you can choose your setups and download that for Windows. Going on, I also wanted to talk about some key differences between wait a sec, some key differences between Linux and Windows. Now in Linux, there is something called etc password. Now etc password is a file that is in the etc directory. Like for instance, if I go to cd now in etc, I'll cat something called password. Now etc password consists of all the usernames, all the different usernames there in the Linux system, and also a lot of other information about that. The other information refers to the user's ID, the GID. Like for instance, what the ID and GID means is the first uh, number you see here after the X is the hash of the user's password, which is stored in etc shadow. I'll get to that in a while. But first, you see that the first integer here, the first value here is the user ID, the UID, and the second is the GID, that is the group ID. So for the root or the most important user, the user ID and the GID is always supposed to be 0. But apart from that, you can have pretty much in any number as the user ID and GID. Now everything that you see here are not exactly users. These are different applications which are running under permissions, just the way the Linux system, that is the way the Linux system works. Like different, like mail is an application. It has a particular user ID, GID, and particular permissions. Now user bin no login is the shell that will be launched when the user logs in, and var mail is the home directory. Like if you look at a legit user, this user, now this user has its home as home cyber lupus and its shell as bin bash. Now all the when you look at the last one here, you'll find false, bin false in many of these user IDs. Your user bin no login. So anything except like this, user bin no login, bin sync, anything except bin bash or bin sh will pretty much be users. Will pretty much be non-existent users in the system. Like these are all false users. These are users created by applications and not by default users of the system. Now there is also a file called etc shadow. Now as I try to cat it, I get permission denied. Now, why do I get that? Because I am not the root user. I am Cyberlupus. I am just a normal user in the system. Now, when I try to cat this file, it is not allowing me, because if I do, I'll be having the salts and the hashes of all these users in the system, and I can use that to crack them. Now, this is the way where users and applications are managed in the Linux system. Now if you look back and if you look into this directory, you are gonna see that there's a lot of things which is given with the directory. Now ls minus al means a means all and l means list. So I get a list of user ID, a list of what is there in this directory. So this cyber lupus says that this is the user and this is the group. And since I do not have a group, these are of the same group. Now, the D in the first octet talk says that this is a directory, and RWX is read, write, and X. I have reading, writing, and executing permissions. Now, how do these work? These work in the way that the first, second, and third. Now, the first line here, it talks about the permissions of the user who owns the file. Here, the owner is Cyberlupus. So, Cyberlupus has read, write permissions over bash history, and this is the users of the same group. Now all the users in the same group, like the cyber lupus group, will not have any permissions in this case. and neither will any other user. The third column talks about any other user in the system, and they won't even have any permissions to read bash history. Now look at this. Here in bash aliases, you see cyberloopers has read write permissions, and the users in the group cyberloopers has only read permissions, and every other user in the system will pretty much have read permissions. All these will be used for any user in the system, and these rules will be kept in line. Apart from the root user, the root user is the most powerful user in the system, and therefore the root user will have the ability to open any file even if it is not the owner of the file itself. Now, the same thing can be looked into Windows with the help of dir. Now, as you can see, these are all different files in the Windows system. Now, if I want to see the permissions of a particular file, I can go to the file and right click on properties. Now here you would see security tab, and you can edit the permissions directly here. Now this will give different users, the administrator system, the level of control they want to have over this particular file. And this is how you're going to change and alter or see permissions of a file in Windows. And this is how you see the permissions of a file in Windows. In Linux, now to change the permissions of a file in Linux, you can use either change mod or change on. Now I'll talk about change mod and ch on in the upcoming videos because that might be too difficult for now. But this is the way how user permissions are managed in Linux and Windows. Now, Windows maintains every user with something called a SID, a security identifier. Now, if you go and search for Windows SID, you're gonna find that a security identifier is unique value of variable length to identify a trustee. Each account has a unique SID and used by authority. So each SID, the SID is going to look something like a very random value under a bracket, right? So these are different APIs you can use with SIDs, but SIDs are basically access tokens to identify user and groups in which the user belongs. Now this is almost the same concept as the Linux uses, but it is somewhat differentiated in the way of its implementation. Like for instance, Linux has these permissions to open or use files in the system, but Windows uses something called ACL. Windows uses something called access control lists. Now, access control lists, the ACLs are going to decide that is what you saw right now when I right clicked and clicked on properties. So, ACLs are going to be the system access control list and discretionary access control list. Now, these are different, more detailed concepts, but basically, an ACL is a list of access control entries that identify the trustee and specify the accept, right, allows, denied, or audited for the trustee. Like basically, it identifies a user or a group and specifies the rights which are allowed to the user or a group. So this is how the Linux and the Windows system differentiates in its user management and the way it handles things. Now, just like the root user in a Linux system, we have the system user. Like for instance, if I do who am I here, I'm going to see I am this user Shivam. But the most powerful user in the Windows system is something called a system. So if you search for system user Windows, so all your drivers and all those which are running at very low privilege, right, running at a very low level, they require a high level of privilege, and that is how the system account is used in Windows. It is more powerful than the administrator account. The system account and the administrator account have the same file privileges but have two different functions. The system account is used by operating system. So as you see, this system account is used by the Windows kernel for its function to run under Windows, and thus this account has more power and is more powerful than administrator account. So the system account is designed for the purpose that internal account does not show up in user manager and cannot be used and added to many groups. So There are different reasons why we use a system account, but for now, just understand that system account is the most powerful user in the Windows system, just the contemporary of what root is in a Linux system. So these are the fundamental differences between Linux and Windows. And after having an understanding these basic concepts, I'm sure that we can dive into hacking. So from the next video, we are going to look into the different stages of hacking and how hacking is actually carried out. So if this video has bored you and in the past few videos have bored you, I'm sure that the next few videos will find them more interesting. Thank you.